Good day, I'm John Pritsinadhan, and now I'm gonna carrying out sports, basketball, volleyball, soccer, and baseball into the new normal by following health and protocols. Basketball is a game played between two teams of five players, each on a rectangular court, usually indoors. Each team tries to score by tossing the ball through the opponent's goal, an elevated horizontal hoop and net called a basketball. When was basketball invented? Basketball was invented by James Naismith on or about December 1, 1891, at the International Young Men's Christian Association YMCA Training School, Springfield, Massachusetts, where Naismith was an instructor in physical education. Basketball is the only major sport strictly of U.S. origin, although Naismith was born in Canada. How does basketball exercise your body? Basketball is a dynamic sport that builds stamina from the short sprints required of running up and down, length of the count, movements distinct to basketball, such as jumping to take shots or grab a rebound, requirements frequent muscle contractions which can build muscular endurance and additional weight training recommended for basketball players in order to improve their performance. So, last year, the NBA distributed to teams a health and safety protocol guide for the 2021 NBA seasons outlining procedures for how it will deal with the coronavirus. Now the league has provided updated guidance detailing further restrictions at home. On the road safety precautions for NBA, principals and their families and recipients for violations that could affect other players, teams, and the game schedules itself. Daily testing began last weekend in advance of training camps opening. Teams began required individual works out Tuesday with group and activities starting this weekend. So, uh, the occurrence of independent cases not spread among players or staff or small or expected numbers of COVID-19 cases will not require decision to suspend or cancel the season. Anyone test positive will have two routes of routine work go on 10 days or more than first positive test. Onset of symptoms or test negative twice at least 24 hours apart via PCR testing. Any player who tests positive, even if symptomatic, will not be allowed to exercise a minimum of 10 days and then must be monitored individual works out for an individual 2 days. There are no criteria mentioned for what might prompt the NBA to suspend the season. Team traveling parties will be limited to 45 people, including 17 players, as they make their way around the country to play a home and volleyball. Volleyball game played by two teams, usually of six players on a side, in which the players use their hands to bat a ball back and forth over a high net, trying to make the ball touch the court within the opponent's playing area before it can be returned. To prevent this, a player on the opposing team bats the ball up and toward the teammate before it touches the court surface. The teammate may then volley it back across the net or bat it to the third teammate who volleys it across the net. A team is allowed only 3 touches of the ball before it must be returned over the net. Volleyball was invented in 1895 by William G. Morgan, physically director of the Young Men's Christian Association YMCA in Holyoke, Massachusetts. It was designed as an indoor sports of business who found the new game of basketball to vigorous Morgan called the sports mintonet. So, into the requirements of the considerations for COVID-19, it is workouts practice should be conducted in pods and bubbles of participants with same players working out together to limit overall exposure. Before, during, and after the contest, players, coaches, and administration should wash and sanitize their hands as often as possible. No out-of-state competition or teams traveling from out-of-state competition unless it is in a dual format and approved by the MHSA Executive Director. Always maintain social distancing of 6 feet while on the field court of play when possible. Everyone must have their own beverage container that is not shared. Safe handling practices should be adhered during hydration, which includes refilling, retrieval, and identification of water source. Then, Timeouts, if applicable, may be extended to a maximum of 2 minutes in length for a safe hydration practices. Social distancing requirements must always be followed. Cloth facial coverings are allowed for physical coaches and officials. Facial coverings must be a single solid color and unported. Facing covering must be worn per the governor's detective. Then gloves are permissible for all players, coaches, and officials, and the ball should be clean and sanitized throughout the contest, even as recommended by the ball manufacturer. Administrator must limit the number of non-essential personnel who are one of the field players or face area throughout the contest. Attendance at the MHSA event is dependent on host football. Football, also called association football or soccer, is a game involving two teams of 11 players who try to maneuver the ball into the other team's goal without using their hands or arms. The team that scores more goals wins. Football is the world's most popular ball game in numbers of participants and spectators. What is the origin of modern football originated in Britain that 19th century to folk football had been played since medieval times with varying rules. The game began to be standardized when it was taken up as a winter game at public school. The Football Association formed in 1863 codified the rules of the game and hosted the first cup competition between regional football clubs in Britain. The Federation International de Football Association or FIFA estimated that at the turn of the first century there were approximately 250 million football players. The World Cup is football premier tournament. It is a quadrennial tournament and it's likely the most popular sporting event in the world, drawing the billions of television viewers every tournament. Football. So, the modern football originated in Britain with the events of its century awards. However, football was taken up of the winter game between. So, the resuming professional football soccer during the COVID-19 pandemic in a country with high infection rates is a prospective cohort study. The risk of virus transmission associated with the contact sports such as football, soccer during the COVID-19 pandemic is unknown. The aim of this study was to describe the infective and immune status of professional football players. The team, staff, and league officials over at truncated football season resumed at the height of COVID-19 pandemic in a country with high infection rates and investigated the clinical symptoms related to COVID-19 infection in professional football players. Prospective cohort study of 1337 football players, staff, and officials during the unstructured football season, 9 weeks with a tailored infection control program based on a preventive measures and regular SARS-CoV-2 PCR swab testing every 3 to 5 days, combined with serology testing for immunity. Every 4 weeks, clinical symptoms is a positive. Participants were recorded using a 26-item Likert scale based scoring system. So, football played outdoors involving close contact between athletes represents baseball. Baseball is a game played with a bat, a ball, and a glove between two teams of 9 players, each on a field with four white bases laid out in a diamond or a square oriented so that its diagonal line is vertical. Teams alternate positions as batters, offense, and fielders defense, exchanging plays when three members of the battling team are put out. As batters, players try to hit the ball out of the reach of the fielding team and make a complete circuit and the basis for a run. The team that scores the most runs in 9 innings times at bat wins the game. So, how the coronavirus pandemic changed baseball's rules? There are few things baseball fans seem to enjoy debating more than how to fix baseball. In recent years, Commissioner Rob Manfred MLB have taken steps on the track. The next generation of fans, including the consideration of many rules, change that have long consideration taboo. In 2020, the coronavirus pandemic forced baseball hands on a number of these changes in order to make for a safer environment for these players and staff during the certain time. That's all. Thank you.